Okay, well, looks like we've got a good crowd here now. I think we can go ahead and get started. We've got a short program for you this afternoon, so let's go ahead and kick things off. My name is Emily, and this is Understanding SACERS with Ellen Vineberg Jacobs, Nina Howe, and Justine Pronovost. This is a free webinar hosted by Teachers College Press. We are the publisher of SACERS and the other instruments in the Environment Rating Scale family of products. So on behalf of Teachers College Press, welcome. Thank you for being here. I think based on your feedback at registration that most of our attendees today are pretty familiar with SACERS and with the ERS products, but just very briefly for those of you who aren't, the ERS products are the leading research-based tools in the field of early childhood to assess comprehensive program quality, and for over 40 years they continue to be the premier instruments in the field for reliability. The family comprises environment and rating scales for infant toddler environments, ITERs, early childhood, ECHRs, family childcare, FICRs, and school age care, which is the instrument we're here to talk about today. That instrument is known as SACERS. SACERS answers the question, what are the components of high quality after school care for children ages 5 to 12? How can we evaluate these programs? And so forth. SACERS is currently in its updated edition, and we're here today to preview the research, testing, and changes that you can expect in the third edition, publishing in the spring of 2026. Here to take us through their work are the co-authors of SACERS-3. Please welcome Ellen Vineberg Jacobs, a distinguished professor emerita at Concordia University in Montreal, Quebec. She also has the distinction of being one of the 3 original authors of SACERS when it was first published in 1995. So she's been there from the beginning and knows this scale very intimately. She's joined today by her co-author Nina Howe, who is Distinguished Professor Emeritus in the Department of Education and held the Concordia University Research Chair in Early Childhood Development and Education. She has applied experience working in preschools, childcare, and as a school counselor and special education teacher. And finally, our third co-author this afternoon, Justine Pronovost, is a research professional at Laval University and the Joint Research Unit about nature-based education in early childhood and preschool programs. She also completed a master's program in child studies at Concordia University. So welcome to the authors. Thank you for being here. I'll let them tell our audience all about their work on SACERS-3 here in just a moment. Some housekeeping, we are recording today. You will all receive that recording via email, so please share it with anyone who you think might be interested. We will have time for a brief Q&A today, so please go ahead and put your questions in the Zoom chat panel as they occur to you. We'll be following along, and at the end of the hour, we can circle back and get to some of those. Also, I want to let you know that we're offering a discount today on all the ERS products for a strictly limited time. The info for that will be only found in the chat and in your follow-up email. So please look out for that, take note of it, and take advantage of that discount. The ERS also includes, in addition to the instruments I mentioned before, products on program and business administration, books on how to interpret your observation data, how to coach with the ERS instruments. There's no early childhood program that can't benefit from the ERS. The subscales, the score sheets, all of the materials you might need to use with the ERS products can be found on our website, tcpress.com. So please go and take a look at all of those while they're on sale and avail yourself of that discount. You may be thinking, but I also want a discount on SACERS-3 and it's not out yet. How will I know when it's out? How can I be sure I'm getting the best price? The answer is please sign up for our newsletter. We put out a free newsletter for the ECE and ERS community. It's called the Early Childhood Professional, and I'll also put the registration link for that in the chat. The Early Childhood Professional is full of free resources, ERS news, and most importantly, it's the first place you'll hear about updates to the scales and new products pertaining to the ERS. Again, SACERS-3 is due out in spring 26, which means it will be available for pre-order sometime this fall. So get on our newsletter. That's the best way to ensure you're the first to know about the new products when they're available. We host an ERS webinar series like this every fall, winter as well. That will also be covered in the newsletter if you sign up. This is the last event in this year's cycle, but get on that list and you'll hear more about free events like this starting next fall. So join the list, visit our website, tcpress.com/ERS, has all the info you could want about the scales and how they can help your program. And that's all for me. So without further ado, I hand it over to our authors.
Okay, thanks very much. We wanted to make sure that people know that this that we're presenting today is a work in progress. So there, while we have 27 items, some things might change over the course of the year as we write and correct, and we hope you don't hold us to what we're presenting today. My background, as Emily said, is in early childhood and elementary ed, and I've been supposedly retired for the past 12 years, but the SACERS has brought me back to work, and I wrote the original SACERS with Thelma Harms and Donna White in 1995, and in 2013, we produced an update. And so when people ask us, why are we, what are the reasons for a revision? I have to say that it was written, the last version was written 12 years ago. So it really is time for a new version. It became evident when we were looking at the rating.
Are you going to let us to talk, the two of us, the other two?
Oh, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'm Nina Howe. I'm sorry to interrupt Ellen, but once she gets on a roll, we know she loves to go. Ellen, I'm also recently retired professor from Concordia University in the program, the Early Childhood and Elementary Education program. And I've been teaching everything from infants to postdocs for about 50 years now, except high school, never taught high school. And early childhood is really my area of research and expertise. And I was very delighted to join Ellen, who has been one of my colleagues and friends for a long time, to join her when she said, oh, I think we need to start revising the SACERS, as we call it, SACERS. And I'm really pleased to be part of the team. And so we're happy to share today what we've been working on. Justine?
Hi, everyone. I'm really glad to be here this afternoon with all of you. So yeah, I'm working right now at Laval University as a researcher. I work mostly on outdoor play and nature-based education in early childhood and pre-K and after-school programs as well. And I've joined the team through Nina. I did my master's with her in child studies. And it's been a pleasure to work with her, and then join the team of SACERS-3 to work on the revision. And I've worked before. My expertise has been in working in an association. Before I was a pedagogical counselor, and I used to support daycares and teachers in their different process. And I did a lot of observation using different scales. So I think that is why I was when I got to work with the SACERS, I recognize a lot of what I did in my previous job. So yeah, that's about it for me. So Ellen, I'll let you continue.
Okay, sorry about that. So people have asked us, why are we doing a revision? And so we want to answer that question today. And this is the agenda that we hope to be able to address in the next 40 minutes. We found that the ratings, not unlike the ECHRS, we found that the ratings based on interview questions rather than on observations were really problematic, because educators tended to base their responses on what they thought was desirable rather than what was actually happening in their program. We also found that indicators for some of the items of the SACERS-U were really too limited in number. Additionally, experts in the field suggested that there was insufficient focus on older children's needs. We always talked about that, but we realized that in our items that we really hadn't covered that sufficiently. So we engaged in a process of revision. It's been going on for, are you ready for this, 2.5 years. We're very close to, I think March will be our 3rd year. It's been a very interesting experience for us. To conduct the revision and feel that we're getting it right this time, we identified some of the weaknesses based on the ratings that we got from the Brana group and the questions that we received sporadically from the URSI group. The URSI group received those questions from users. They wanted explanations and they wanted clarification. So we really knew at that point that we had to begin a revision. And we also were concerned about our own philosophy of school-age care and making sure that this reflected our philosophy. So without further ado, let's talk about our philosophy of school-age care. We said to ourselves, okay, what do children need at the end of the school day? And we thought about what children, the kind of experiences children have at the end of the day when they go home and they are free to do what they want to do. Could we make that happen for school-age children in a care program? So we thought that they need time for rest and relaxation. They need a program that's not an extension of the school day, except, of course, where homework is needed. They need a warm and welcoming environment and an appropriately caring educator. They also, interestingly, they need a challenging program that appeals to their interests so that they will want to attend these programs at the end of the school day. And we know from the research that attendance tends to drop off by grade 3. So we need to create activities that are really interesting for children beyond that age. They need an environment that is available for children with special needs. And in many cases, they need special materials and equipment. Additionally, as the last on the list, they need a program that focuses on the development of skills and introduces them to new activities. And typically, children at the end of school day who go home maybe even don't go home, but will go to a program in which they develop some skills that they're interested in, such as different sports, arts and crafts, music, and drama. So what have we done? What changes have we made to the SACERS-U? We deleted interview questions, except for demographic information that is at the beginning of the observation. And we have designed a cover sheet for that, to gather that information and record it. Users are instructed to score only what has been observed, particularly where activity items are concerned. We've introduced items that address older children's needs, such as for leadership opportunities. We also have integrated elements of diversity, equity, and inclusion into most of the indicators, not all, but most. Although we've reduced the number of items due to the combinations that we've made and the elimination of the interview questions, we have increased the number of indicators, making each item more robust. And as we reworked the items, we focused on themes, and we have included those themes in our notes for clarification so that the intention of those items is really clear. Okay, I'm done. Justine?
Okay, yeah, I'll take over. So here is what we've how we've been working so far, where we're at. So for those who are wondering, but where are you at and when is it gonna be done? So we started it in 2021 with weekly team meetings to really revise the scale, the item, the indicators, everything basically. Like Ellen was, like she says very often, oh, it was just gonna be little tweaks, and then ended up revising the whole thing and being like, oh, it needed way more than little tweaks. So that's what we've been up to. Then we did some piloting, testing it ourselves, seeing how it holds together and how it works. We also did a expert content validity study. So we asked some expert to give their comments, what they thought was most important within the scale, and just from their expertise. And from those comments, we did some more revision and refinements, and also we repiloted again before moving on to the actual pilot study, where we did a training with our partners in UNC Greensboro, the University in North Carolina, Greensboro, and with our very precious partners, Leah Rucker and Linda Esteens. So I went there to meet with them and train them and do a week of reliability observation. And during the fall, fall 2024, they did a first round in 32 programs. And right now we're doing the analysis of all of those observation scoring, and also all the questions and comments that the observers have given us using our new scales, and seeing how it holds together, how that works. So that's very exciting to us. So I'm gonna just go through what it used to look like and what it's gonna look like now. So this is an example of a revision of what used to be the math and reasoning item in the SACERS-U. So you can see that there's not a lot of indicators in this one. There's like 1 or 2 for each score level. And now the new one is about games. We named it Games and Puzzle because we come back to the philosophy that Ellen presented earlier, it's really about what are the children most likely to do. So the activity themselves that we're going to observe is games and puzzles, and the math and reasoning is expected within. So we're going to see it in the themes such as skill development. So like Ellen was explaining, one of the things that really guide us to write those new items or revise the items was to have themes to guide us. So what is it that we want to observe in those items? What is important for the children's experience? So you can see the themes up there. And so just a reminder, this is a work in progress. It might still change. It's just an example. We're tweaking the wording, we're changing some of the definition. And of course, each page comes with notes for clarification that are really helpful to understand each items. So you can see here that although you still read vertically, you're going to still score vertically. So you go and you score all the 1s first, and you move on to 3s and 5s and 7s. We also try to have a continuity and with the themes across. So that's interesting for the reader, but for us also to understand the items this way as well. So I'm gonna start and present to you the first subscale, which is the same subscale that you used to have. We didn't change everything for sure. So the first subscale is about space and furnishings. It used to be 10 items, and now it's down to 6 because we merged some of them, again, to make each item more robust, like Ellen was saying, and more full, and also because it's only about observation and no question asked during the observation. So you still have the indoor space, the indoor furnishings, the space and furnishings for play and learning activities, space for privacy. And the item 5 is a new one, is about the outdoor space and furnishings. How is it welcoming to the program? We know a lot of programs spend a lot of time outdoor, not just for gross motor play, but just to because it's nice out and it's nice to be out there. So there's picnic tables, you can take snack out there, you can maybe bring some art materials and everything. So this item is about that. And then we still have an item more specifically about gross motor activities, both indoor and outdoors. So that's for the first scale. Nina, you can continue with the other subscales.
Hey, thank you, Justine. Yeah, the second subscale is health and safety, which we know is a really important subscale. We've reduced it from 7 items in the SACERS-U to 3 items, and that's because we combined, as you see, like item 7, health practices and policy. We've combined them together rather than having them separate, because so many of the in the current version, so many of the items were relied on interview questions, and we've obviously tried to reduce that to make it based on observation and not questions. We've also moved some of the items into program structure, which I'll talk about next, because we felt that they were better reflected in program structure and less important in health and safety. So those 3, the items that we've moved are attendance, departure, and meals and snacks. So the third subscale is really, as I said, about program structure, and you can see that there are 4 items now. We decreased it and got rid of the community resources item because that relies on questions, and we just we want to be an observational scale. So we also combined arrival and departure into 1 item because it seems to me that it seems to us as a team that these arrival and departure were essentially about moving children in and out of the program, and so that's why we've combined it there. We also have relabeled the item that is currently called free play into children's autonomous decision making. It has the same intention as free play, but we want to emphasize the ability, the opportunities for children to make some of their own decisions about what they're going to do in the program, what activities they're going to join into or create for themselves. And it's not just completely structured by the adults in the program. The 4th subscale, which is really important, well, they all are important, I shouldn't say, has to do with activities. And we've increased it from 8 to 9 items. There are 2, and we combined a few things. So the 2 new items is our gross motor activities, item 15, and the use of technology within activities. And that's important to note. It's how kids may be using technology within the activities. Something to keep in mind is that we do not expect any program to have all 9 activities going on a single day when you might go for observation. So we will, in our scoring, we have the option of only including scores for those activities that you actually observe. We have some information from our work in North Carolina about which activities actually were observed most frequently. We changed some of the titles to better reflect what the item really is about, as Justine talked about earlier, about the math and reasoning became now games and puzzles. The title for blocks seemed to be something that was maybe oriented to the very youngest children, but we wanted to emphasize that the older children in the program, in fact, may be involved in quite complex construction and building materials. Reading and writing has been combined into language, and reading and writing have been combined into a single item. So those are some of the themes, and I should say there are some consistent themes across each of the 9 items. A lot of them and the consistent themes have to do with things like the availability and accessibility and the particular kinds of materials that will be available to the children for each item. They all also have something to do with, we have indicators about skill development. How can they create more skill in terms of arts or games or puzzles or reading or writing? But they're also, and of course, as Ellen said earlier, we've integrated DEI into the activities as well. But there are also some themes that are specific to each item. So for example, for arts and crafts, we have a theme about opportunities for children to be creative in their arts and crafts. And the fifth subscale, interactions, something else, of course, which is very important and has been a major focus of our revision. It's been reduced from 9 to 5 items because we're relying not on questions now, but on observation only. So there are in the current version some items about parent-staff communication and communication with the classroom teacher. We are not likely to observe that, so we've reduced. Those items are gone. The item about staff supervision has in fact been integrated into the activities items because it's we thought that it was a better place for it. And then we've renamed the item about discipline to call it guidance, because we think it reflects a more positive philosophy of behavior management and child-centered care. So you can see that we're looking at the importance of child-staff interactions, their verbal communications, the kinds of guidance that the educators will provide for children. Of course, the quality of the children's peer interactions and the staff-staff communication are emphasized here. So that brings us to the next steps in the revision process. As Justine indicated earlier, we're in the midst of analyzing our data from UNC Greensboro to assess the reliability of the items and indicators. We have some preliminary data which shows that we already know where there's some items that need some revision, and some seem to be pretty strong, so that's good. Once we've done this second round, the three of us have gone through the items and the indicators that need revising. We will be sending it back with Justine as a trainer. Once again, she's our gold standard trainer to UNC Greensboro to train them and their wonderful group of observers there for second round about reliability. And then of course that will be analyzed and we will produce the final version with the publication date of sometime in the spring of 2026. So that will be an exciting day for everybody, but probably no more exciting than for us, the three of us, because by then it will be almost 5 years we'll have been working on this revision. And so now, thank you very much for your attendance and questions and comments, and we'd love to hear them. So.
Great. Thank you all so much. That was a very, very useful overview of what's coming. And I know from the questions they submitted ahead of time, our audience was very curious about what to expect from the revision. So thank you for all of that information about the subscales and the items. I see we've got a couple of questions coming in here. Erica Fitzgerald asked, does the use of the word "and" versus the use of the ampersand in the item titles denote different meanings? I think she's wondering if when those are represented differently on the slides you shared, does it mean that they're scored differently, or is it just a grammatical quirk?
Yeah, I think it's just an inconsistencies on our slides.
Yeah.
So there's no meaning. But thanks for pointing that out. So now we can make it consistent though.
That's what I thought as well, but just wanted to check with all of you.
Yeah.
We have another question from Gwen. How long is the actual observation period?
We organize that around programs, usually programs that last 3 hours. At the end of the school days, children are picked up at around 3 o'clock, and they either walk over to the program or they are in the same school and walk down to the classroom where the program is being held. And usually they are called for by their parents within a 3-hour period. So we thought that and that's in our instructions too. It will work for a full day program during PED days and holidays. So but really, we're thinking about the observation lasting 3 hours.
A minimal of 2 hours that we
Right.
indicated a minimum of 2 hours. Usually I think it takes between, right now in the piloting, it takes between 2 and 3 hours.
Okay, great, great. Thank you for that. And relatedly, Justine, you talked about this a bit, but so is it safe to say the scoring will be familiar to people who use the current edition of SACERS? It's scored in all the same way and that sort of thing?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a great question. So it's the same system where you have level 1, 3, 5, and 7, and for the level 1, you need to have all no's to move along and have to the 3s, and then you need yeses to keep going, and then if you have like half of them, you go in between, like for a score of 2, 4, or 6. So this is the same system that it used to be. It's not changing at all. And it's very important to keep that in mind and to keep reading vertically, because it's still meant to be scored that way.
Okay, great. And we have Christina, who's going back to what we were talking about a moment ago with the observation period. What if the children are in the program for less than 2 hours? Is that something you've encountered?
Justine?
Yeah, I mean, we've encountered it, well, when it's the full group, we're still debating on that. Is like, are we expecting programs that last less than 2 hours to be observed and count for? It's actually hard to like really score all the scale and grasp the experience that we're looking for under 2 hours. So we're still discussing like would an hour and a half be okay, and what's really the lowest amount of time that we could go. We know when we were at the conference in Chicago in the fall, I don't know if some of you were there, but the ARS conference, some people were talking about that it's an issue for them because some programs are just really short. And so how could we manage that? So we're still debating and discussing that issue, and we know we know it's a situation that some of you might encounter and wonder how to navigate that. So we're on it.
Great. Thank you. Just before we leave this topic, we had another question from Elizabeth. Does observation time matter? Morning, afternoon, after school? Any thoughts about that?
If the option exists, it would probably be preferable that the children be observed in the afternoon. But it really depends on how long that program is running. And if it's a full day and you want to see arrivals and departures, that's going to be problematic. But we, as Justine just said, we're on it. We're trying to figure that out.
Great. Great, thank you. We're getting so many questions here. Let me just jump back to one we received a little earlier from Shannon Valles, who says the other third editions of the ERS focus on the classroom or things that are more within the teacher caregivers control. Admin related things were taken out. Usually that the staff in an after school program are not the ones that set policy, which is an issue I ran into when using the current version. And she asks, does the new item 7 recognize this?
Item 7 is the health practices and policy item, Ellen.
Yeah.
Maybe this was referring to the 5th subscale with the staff interactions. I think it came in close to the end of your portion, Nina, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think absolutely. Because we're focusing on what are we asking people to rate what they observe. Some of the administrative related things are gone because we can't observe them. So I think that it's less of an issue in the revision.
Okay, great. Another question we received here. Any considerations if the school age program is So many questions, my chat is jumping around. Any considerations if the school age program is just sharing a classroom or versus having available space in their own kind of facility?
Yeah, definitely. That was oh, Nina, do you want to
Well, that we know that's the reality of after-school care programs, that sometimes they have their own dedicated space and sometimes they don't. And we've tried to take that into account in the revision so that programs that are sharing a space, they go into the kindergarten classroom at the end of the day, for example, are not penalized because they don't have a dedicated space. So that we're definitely trying to take this into account.
Yeah, for example, one of the things we added was about like storage space that would be dedicated to the program. So that's a way to see, well, that would be a good practice to have a space allocated to the program for storage. So because we know a lot of them are in shared space, so then you can still look, well, how did they manage? Like, how do they bring materials? What does that look like? So it was definitely part of our the things that we took into consideration for sure.
And another thing that we were looking at as well in shared space is access to materials. That was a big concern of ours because we don't want people to be penalized for that, for a lack of access and the whole opportunity to share materials. So when we went in to look, we asked, that's one of the questions that we asked right at the beginning, can you use any and all of the materials in the room? And we received a lot of interesting answers. It was really varied. So for instance, some said, well, you see, up until this point, and it was like a dividing line in the room. These belong to the kindergarten teacher, and our stuff for the after school is in the back and high up, and you have to climb to get it down, but that's what they were doing.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We are nearing our time. I think maybe we have time for one more question. And maybe we'll take it back to a more general question that we received from an attendee before the webinar began today. This attendee was a leader who was asking how best to, for advice on how best to support their staff during the transition to the new version. And so maybe that's a good way to close out, just talking a bit, whether from the perspective of the person who's running the program or a leadership administrator. What would you say to people, at this point, a year out or so, that they maybe should start focusing on or thinking about in their classrooms in preparation for the new scale?
Gee, that's a good question. That's a toughie.
Well,
Nina?
I think several things to focus on, to think about, are the kinds of activities that are being offered to the children, and their opportunities, and in terms of activities, do they mostly appeal to the younger children in the program, or are there opportunities for the older children to take some leadership, some initiative in the kinds of things they might want to do, how they spend their time? I think thinking about the quality of the interactions of staff with the children and how involved are they and supportive, and to think about the kinds of space that they have and how to best use that space, knowing that sometimes they have control over the space because it's a dedicated space, and sometimes they have very little because they're shared. So I think those are the kinds of things. And I think I would recommend to educators is to stop and just observe what's going on in your program. What are opportunities to enhance it and to strengthen it in advance of the change.
Yeah,
measure.
I would add to that. I think that's a great idea. It's really like, who are the kids in your program and what's their reality, and really get interested in, well, what does it mean for those children to be in that after school program, and how can this experience be meaningful to them and not just be like a waiting period because they have to be there. So I think that is really what we want to see and what we try to reflect in all our items in like the quality of interaction, but also when we talk about autonomous decision making and the flexibility in your structure and in your day-to-day schedule is about, well, you have school age kids, you have kids that are curious, that are that are smart and can really have ideas for a project, have personal interests. So how can you as a staff member be interested in who are those children and what they're interested in that time? And like Nina was saying, it's about the opportunities that you're offering in those activities and the way you're supporting those ideas and those curious little children coming at you at the end of the day. So I think that's really something that I would suggest.
And I would suggest thinking about the older children in the program and what do you need to do to keep them coming back? What is of interest to them, and how can you make the afternoon more interesting?
That's great. Thank you all so much. That's such a nice note to end on, really reflecting on how important these programs are and, you know, why you do this work. So thank you so much. We had just a short little event this afternoon, but you really showed us a lot about what to expect from the new scale. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise. I hope we can have the three of you back this time next year to talk about the new scale when it's out in the world. And I want to thank all of our attendees for coming and sharing their questions. We will be sharing the recording with all of you via email. We will be sending out that discount information via email. So please look out for that. And thank you all for being here today.
I can just interject, if anybody has more questions, our emails are in the PowerPoint. So please don't hesitate to send them along and we'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah. And thank you to all for coming and listening to us and being excited for this revision. It's nice to know that people are expecting it. It's fun. It's motivating for us.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.